Coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. This is the RCWR Show. I am, of course, as always, the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders. I thank those of you so kindly for checking out tonight's episode on August 4th, 2012. How's everybody going? Hope everybody's having a fantastic weekend so far. We had a little bit of a family emergency over here at our inn, so we apologize to those of you that were looking for our episode to actually air earlier this afternoon at 2 o'clock Eastern. We apologize to you guys humbly for that. Everything is okay. I'm good. I'm in one piece. And I'm not going to be riding solo tonight. That's right. Helping me out, I've got the lovely co-producer, Tammy, that is going to be with me as we get you all caught up on another installment of the RCWR Show Weekend Edition. Lovely Tammy, are you there?
Well, yes, I am. Can you hear me a little better?
I can hear you a little better now. All right. Lovely voice as always. Do hope everybody is having a good weekend so far. Thank you so much for checking out tonight's episode on blogtalkradio.com and over at our sister website at infinityoneproductions.com. Hey, we got the chat room open up right now. Feel free to jump on in there. That's up on Blog Talk Radio. We also got the Twitter and the Facebook. You know how we do it over here. We're always up on there. Love to hear from you all, so feel free to interact with us on Twitter as we're there at Infinity1Prod. Once again, that's Infinity1Prod, and we're also on Facebook at Infinity1 Productions. We're going to be opening up the phone lines, as always, in the later part of tonight's show, so be sure to listen out for your opportunity to be live on the air with us and give us your wrestling question, comment, or question, comment on a number of the topics that we're going to be covering on tonight's weekend edition. So, Tammy, how's your weekend been going so far?
Pretty good, Lee. Haven't done much of anything, just kind of getting ready for the show. That's about it.
Yeah, a little bit same over here. It was a little bit hectic earlier, but it's nice and calmed down now. Definitely am pumped up for tonight's show. So let's go on ahead, folks, and let's get you guys caught up on everything that's been happening since last we were off the air. Of course, we definitely want to talk about what all had went down on this past Monday night's Raw, as it was being hyped up as the 1001 episode. And I must say that after a week fresh removed from the 1000th episode of Raw, I must admit that with the episode of Raw that we saw from this past Monday night, I was feeling a little bit satisfied with what all I was seeing, as SummerSlam is slowly starting to shape up now, as we just got beat over the head throughout the night how Brock Lesnar is going to be taking on Triple H, and we were just constantly reminded of that match all throughout the night. WWE, they have just been really going into overdrive, hyping up this match. Tammy, definitely want to get your takeaway from this Brock Lesnar Triple H hype. Do you feel that this match could live up to the potential hype that's being built around it right now, or are you a little bit on the fence still?
Well, on the what I've seen so far, I tell you, the hype is certainly just that, but I can see that Triple H and actually Brock Lesnar, from the clips that they've shown us, are definitely ready to bring it and ready to go with it. I don't know if it'll live up to the hype, but I certainly see Triple H trying his darndest.
Yeah, same here. I mean, you hope that it has the potential to be one of the greatest matches of the night. But, I mean, I just don't know. It's still fresh in my head, man. Seeing Triple H just bury the hell out of Brock Lesnar 2 weeks ago as he just sent him flying over the ropes. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, this is supposed to be Brock Lesnar. This is supposed to be the former UFC World Heavyweight Champion, and with just ease, he just gets sent flying over the ropes by a guy that's not even considered to be a wrestler on a part-time basis, and he just goes flying out the damn ring. Just really not the way I would have tried to sell this match, but, you know, maybe they can prove me wrong when this happens on Sunday, coming up at the SummerSlam pay-per-view in, what's that, 2-3 weeks now, because it's going to be happening August 19th. But, you know, one of the other main takeaways, of course, the buzz that was happening throughout the night was one CM Punk, who had to explain his actions for attacking The Rock last week. And that, you know, that was just really pretty solid, I felt. Did you happen, by chance, to had seen a replay of that with CM Punk, and he was explaining himself, and he was talking to Jerry the King Lawler, bashing all his commentating and all that. Did you happen to catch that?
I did catch a little bit of that, and I actually kind of agree with CM Punk. For Jerry Lawler, you know, just a little bit is okay, but when you flat out, you know, bash somebody that way, I think he really did take it just a bit too far with what he was saying about CM Punk, and I think CM Punk was absolutely in the right to call him out on it.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, CM Punk, he almost delivered a pipe bomb moment this past Monday night on Raw 1001 as he pretty much sat up and told Jerry the King Lawler that his commentating was just bad, and that there really wasn't any thought behind a lot of the things that Jerry was saying. And it was really I thought it was kind of nice how CM Punk had addressed it, because the way he addressed it, he pretty much addressed that small percentage of WWE fans, especially those WWE fans that remember how it was when Jerry Lawler used to do commentating with Vince McMahon, how it used to be when Jerry was teamed up with Jim Ross. They know that there has been a change in Jerry Lawler's demeanor. They know he's not quite the same anymore. I don't even know if you would consider his commentating now slapstick fun, as really to me it just a lot of times it just comes off just like he's there, you know. I'm waiting for Vince McMahon to pull that trigger and put some more new blood on that Raw roster for the commentators. I think it's time to shake things up. I think Jerry Lawler, you know, I think he's played his course. It would be kind of nice to see somebody step in on behalf of Jerry Lawler. The only question is, who can you get to replace?
You know, as much as I don't like Michael Cole, he certainly brings it a lot more than Jerry Lawler does. Unfortunately, with Jerry Lawler, it sounds more like he's just having something to say and not really putting too much thought into what he's saying. Yeah,
exactly. So CM Punk, I mean, he was really setting the tone as he took shots at The Rock, the People's Champion, as he sat up and said that The Rock is only one man. He's only a big, egotistical Hollywood movie buff that basically just cares about nobody but himself, and how he felt disrespected. And when he felt that disrespect, he dished it right back to The Rock. And that's why he did what he did to the People's Champion at Raw 1000 2 weeks ago, just laying him out on the canvas. And CM Punk, he would bring up very valid points. Since that beatdown that he gave to The Rock has been silent. He has not acknowledged what had happened in that ring, as The Rock is just quietly going off, pretending that it didn't even happen. We just heard recently, over the weekend actually, that The Rock, he just got done doing a rigorous 12-week training course because he's getting ready to do the sequel to the Fast and Furious. So he's getting ready to film that, but no acknowledgement right now from what had happened. Tammy, is it possible? Can you even wrap your brain around that? I know you are a big Rock fan. Is it possible that The Rock has his tail kind of tucked between his legs right now and is saying, okay, I wasn't really prepared for that. I will have to get back to Punk on that one.
I think that it's just basically Rock saying, all right, let me give this boy a little bit of time and let him think he's the big man on campus. But I have a feeling that The Rock has something definitely planned for him. Because you know, and I know, The Rock never takes anything lying down, and he's definitely going to have a major comeback for him.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, one of the other main highlights that we had saw on Raw this past Monday night, we had saw Alberto Del Rio let it be known that he was not going to be competing in any more singles matches until it was time for his match against the Great White Sheamus at SummerSlam. And folks, that would not last that long, as pretty soon the new sheriff in town on the SmackDown roster would see to it that Alberto Del Rio did in fact see in-ring action, and we'll definitely get you all caught up on the latest installment of this past Friday night SmackDown in just a little bit. But very pleased with what we had saw from the Great White Sheamus on Monday Night Raw, as we covered it on the Tuesday night edition of the RCWR Show, but it just can't be stressed enough. Sheamus, another 5-star quality type of match with Daniel Bryan, where they got it on in a street fight. Folks, I can't stress it enough. If you haven't made it your business to go check that particular match out from this past Monday night, you are really missing out, as Sheamus just really proving his dominance and just why he should be the World Heavyweight Champion. Of course, this past Monday night, we also saw the return of the Viper, Randy Orton, who looks to be in great form, seems to have not missed a step since last we saw him in the ring. And Tammy, you know, one of the questions that's popping up as of late since Randy Orton has returned is, can Randy Orton somehow keep the fans' enthusiasm this time around, as you have that core audience that are starting to look at Randy Orton just as they would John Cena. They are now saying, with regards to Randy Orton, okay, he's going to do the little power slam. He's going to do that ridiculous DDT that takes about 90 seconds to set up, which should be enough time for the opponent to get out of it, and then he delivers the RKO. I'm curious about your thoughts, Tammy, with regards to that negative crowd that is kind of not really too keen on seeing Randy Orton return.
I think you're going to have a select few that, you know, have their different opinions about Randy Orton, but I have a feeling that the overall opinions will kind of die down once they see him back in the ring and see what he can do for you know, his wrestling matches, and then actually get the excitement back, you know, from him doing the RKO and from him actually just being in their space. Because I think some of the naysayers are kind of doing that just because he's not there.
I don't know, Tammy, because, I mean, this is talk that was being said before he even left. So, I mean, on the one hand, you can appreciate the fact that Randy Orton is back because you're thinking about the SmackDown roster, because Raw is pretty much jam-packed. There really isn't need for Randy Orton on Raw. We're talking about the SmackDown roster. He was definitely missing on there. You could definitely kind of tell that something was kind of missing. Even if before he was suspended, he was putting over other people, he was still missing. Let's just all agree on that. As we know, his last run, it really wasn't anything to be talking about, as he was jobbing to people left and right. But he was gone just long enough to make you sit up and say, man, I actually miss Randy Orton. I want to see this guy come back. But you had that core audience before he left that was sick and tired of him, and they were probably more sick and tired of the fact that they've been getting the same watered-down, stale gimmick, is what some people would say of Randy Orton, as they're ready to see the next evolution of Randy Orton, something that actually WWE Hall of Famer Stone Cold Steve Austin would actually say a few months back, pointing out that Randy Orton, hell of a guy, great to work with in the ring, but isn't quite at that point where he needs to be right now with his character. I mean, you even have Stone Cold Steve Austin sitting back saying, when is he finally going to put it all together? Because when he finally does put it all together, he can really be the true breakout star that he needs to be, that he deserves to be.
You have some very valid points there on that. I actually agree with most of them, as far as if they were saying it prior to him even leaving, then it sounds more like they were getting a little tired of the same old moves and like you said, ready for him to step into his own style and more moves and greatness. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to bash Randy Orton yet, I've never really bashed Randy Orton in the first place, but I definitely am going to be kicking back and watching him closely to see what exactly is going to happen next. I mean, one thing is for certain, when it's all said and done, he's got 2 strikes under his belt right now for violating the WWE wellness policy. One more, and he is definitely going to be done. He will be fired from the WWE. There is no way you can dance around that. And WWE, they would unfortunately, as much as they love Randy Orton, they would have no choice but to suspend him, because to try to quietly sweep that under the rug or look the other way, that would just be a lawsuit waiting to happen from other wrestlers that got that 3rd strike and were given their pink slip. That would have all of them just taking a crack at WWE and filing lawsuits, and they would win. They would probably win. I could be wrong, but, I would think they would probably win. And, of course, one of the main highlights that kind of had me going, that had me a little bit curious, was CM Punk's title reign since he's been the WWE Champion. And it's a point that was highlighted on the Thursday night edition of Impact Showdown Radio, which is with this last little twist, if you will, that's happening with CM Punk, where it's looking like he's flirting with possibly becoming a heel. Is it going to be enough needed to ride CM Punk out with that WWE title for the rest of the year going into next year's WrestleMania? We definitely want to take an in-depth look at this because, Tammy, I think it's a very good question because let's think about it. We know we got WWE 13 is just around the corner. It's going to be dropping in 2 months, almost 3 months. October 30th is when it'll be released for all video game major platforms. And we just have to think to ourselves, okay, what better time than now to kind of put a little tweak into CM Punk's character? Whatever needs to be done to freshen it up, right?
Mhm.
But it got me thinking, how long, well, not necessarily how long has CM Punk been champion, but who has he been putting the title against? And then that also set up another thought in my head, which is, could we finally be winding down to the age of Punk? Pull up a chair, right? And let's just go through this. I thought this was a very interesting list, and I've been keeping track of who CM Punk has been facing when that WWE Championship belt has been on the line. So pull up a chair. You're going to actually like this, folks. This is actually pretty cool. So let's first pick it back up with his very first title run, where he had defeated John Cena at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view last year. That was in July. The very next month, we would see CM Punk defeat John Cena at SummerSlam. That was August of last year. But remember, immediately after that match, we saw Alberto Del Rio come out, and he cashed in his Money in the Bank contract to defeat CM Punk and become champion that same night. Now, from there, CM Punk wouldn't get the belt back until November. Now, for those of you that are a little bit curious, well, what was CM Punk doing in between all that? It's okay if you have that question. We got you covered there, too. Now, in September of last year, we saw John Cena defeat Alberto Del Rio at Night of Champions. Triple H, in the meantime, he defeated CM Punk that same night. And remember the stipulation for that match, folks, for those of you that remember Night of the Champions 2011. If Triple H lost that match to Punk, he was going to have to resign as the COO of the WWE. Now, let's pick it up in October. We saw Alberto Del Rio defeat CM Punk and John Cena in a Hell in a Cell match at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. This would be followed up by Alberto Del Rio defeating John Cena at the Vengeance pay-per-view later that same month. What was CM Punk doing at that pay-per-view? Well, he was teaming up with Triple H to defeat The Miz and R-Truth in a tag match. And then, of course, November of last year at the Survivor Series pay-per-view, we see CM Punk win the WWE title off of Alberto Del Rio. Now, from here, it's been nothing but CM Punk. As December at TLC, we would see Punk defeat Miz and Del Rio. January of this year, at the Royal Rumble, we saw Punk defeat Dolph Ziggler. February this year, we saw CM Punk defeat Miz, Chris Jericho, Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, R-Truth at the Elimination Chamber. This past WrestleMania, we saw CM Punk defeat Chris Jericho. April of this year, we saw CM Punk again defeat Chris Jericho. May of this year, at Over the Limit, we saw CM Punk defeat Daniel Bryan. June of this year, we saw CM Punk defeat Kane and Daniel Bryan in a triple threat match at the No Way Out pay-per-view. Just last month, we saw CM Punk defeat Daniel Bryan in a no disqualification match at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And, of course, this year's SummerSlam, coming August 19th, from the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California, we're going to be seeing CM Punk take on Big Show and John Cena in a triple threat match for the WWE title. Now, Tammy, you and me, we were talking about this list earlier, and we were putting our heads together, and we were saying, what is wrong with this list? Because something looks kind of odd here with regards to all these people that CM Punk has faced. Something looks pretty odd, and I know there was one thing that you had pointed out. I definitely would like for you to let the listeners know.
Basically, it sounds like that the title seems to be going back in the direction of Cena.
Exactly. It really does look like that when you think about it, because for those of you that might have missed it, let's look at the last time John Cena had anything to do with a WWE title match, okay? I'm not talking about what happened on Raw where he cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, like, the real deal, okay? You got to go kind of far back. You have to go as far back, folks, as October 23rd, when Del Rio defeated John Cena at the Vengeance pay-per-view. So it does kind of look as if Cena could possibly be on that track to getting that belt back, right? Do we want to, do we want to see that happen to CM Punk? Personally, I don't want to see that happen. I think that CM Punk, he has a lot of creativity left. He still has a lot of fuel in his tank. I think now is the time for WWE to really just push that envelope and just have this guy just go heel. And I just think that with the little seeds that they've been planting here and there, they've been doing a good job within recent weeks. I just want to continue to see them plant those seeds until he is just full-blown heel, just white-hot heel, and that could definitely be what he needs to go into next year holding that title, I feel. Tammy, how would you feel about a full-blown CM Punk heel turn? Do you think it's needed, or, do you think it could possibly backfire?
Well, CM Punk has really been doing a good job as the WWE champ, and to be honest with you, to see that turn is definitely a interesting turn of events for him. And I actually see the seeds being planted as we speak as far as him turning heel. So, do I feel that he deserves to keep the belt? Yeah, actually I do, to be perfectly honest. I actually would like to see that different side of him and see how he could pull that off. Because back in the era when he was doing the pipe bombs and all of the other things that he was bringing up, when he left with the title, my goodness, he was white hot at that point. And definitely, you were tuning in each week just to see what he was doing. So to see that happen to an extent again, I'm up for that.
Now, see, that's probably the general mentality of WWE fans, of CM Punk fans, right? But then this is the other thing that you have to think about, folks, as much as we would like to see that. Who would you have a heel CM Punk work with to help get him over? Would you go on ahead and would you recycle John Cena and all these other guys again, or would you try to go out there for new blood? I mean, that really brings up the question right now, because unfortunately there aren't too many strong baby faces that could work a 2, 3, maybe a 4-month program with a heel CM Punk. Okay, we got John Cena. Well, who else do we have?
Not anybody that's there on a permanent basis, but it does bring to mind the question of maybe they're actually trying to bring him in and work with The Rock.
That's what I'm saying. It's a very weird dynamic right now, and it just really had me thinking right now. And surprisingly, of all the things that I was just thinking about when I was looking at this list, and I'm thinking about what's happening with CM Punk, I just have this fear that if WWE doesn't do this right, of what they're trying to do with CM Punk, it could backfire, because it could go back to the fans still rooting on CM Punk, or just saying, well, we really don't notice a difference. He's still the same guy, whatever. I mean, we still heard people cheering him on at the 1000th episode of Raw, and you had John Cena laid out, and he laid out The Rock. He didn't put his hands on John Cena, but he put his hands on The Rock. Well, this past Monday, we saw CM Punk put his hands on The Rock. But again, it was a little bit, out of 100%, it was like 90% were cheering Punk, only 10% were kind of booing him. So it's still a work in progress. But of all the things that I was thinking, as I'm keeping in mind what's happening with Punk within recent weeks, I'm saying to myself, they really need Edge right now.
Yeah.
They really could use Edge right now. And if you folks do not see this connection, this is where I'm going with this. I think if they want Raw to be fresh, and they really want it to be that, you just got to watch it, I think two things might need to happen here, folks. I think that they need to just have John Cena just step away from that title picture. Just have him be involved with other people and let a heel, CM Punk, do whatever it is he needs to do to really try to work that crowd over, and who knows, maybe they could finally elevate Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston has never been in a one-on-one match at a pay-per-view for the WWE title. It's never happened. Maybe it's time to finally see him do that. We saw R-Truth finally get his time in the sunlight as he was able to take on John Cena for the WWE Championship at the Capital Punishment pay-per-view last year, I believe it was. Maybe we could see a face R-Truth as well eventually work a program with CM Punk. Not necessarily money-making names that will make people want to come up out of their pockets and see these guys take on CM Punk, but at this point they have a thin roster of baby faces, and if WWE were to continue to go with CM Punk, then this could be one of the avenues that they would need to possibly go, especially if they are loving the idea of having a heel CM Punk, since they don't want to touch John Cena. But then it got me thinking of something else that they could possibly do with Punk, which is send Punk to SmackDown. You send Punk to SmackDown, you have him perfectly fill in the void that is still felt to this day by Edge no longer being on there. And, let's be honest, a lot of people were tuning in to SmackDown to see Edge. I just think that it would be a really great idea, if they went with CM Punk going on SmackDown. That way, that really breathes new life onto the SmackDown roster. Just think about all the fresh rivalries we could see happen on the SmackDown side of things. But then you would kind of be saying to yourself, well, what could possibly happen on the Raw side of things? Well, honestly, other people would need to step up, obviously. I could be wrong with that, but Tammy, I definitely would like to hear what you guys say about that.
I have a feeling that that's actually something that may not be a bad idea to look into, and sort of have Punk work, the Friday night SmackDown, and then have Cena work Monday Night Raw. You know, your two biggest names for, you know, either show.
Because, I mean, if because when you really think about it, there's only going to be but so many freaking times that people are going to want to freaking see Sheamus take on Alberto Del Rio.
Or CM Punk take on John Cena.
Exactly. So something definitely is going to need to happen right there. You know, hopefully whatever they're doing right now, and I kind of have an idea what WWE is doing right now, they better have a concrete, bulletproof plan right now, because it could backfire. Because let's not forget what all had happened leading up to that infamous Money in the Bank pay-per-view last year. CM Punk was really supposed to be the bad guy there, but the fans were really loving him, and they were loving those pipe bombs that he was throwing out there, and, you know, that made him a fan favorite. So it's going to be really hard for him to really get back to that point of where he was before. But one thing's for certain, it doesn't help having him be on the same program with Cena. Point being, you got to break those two up, folks. That's the only way you're going to be able to really create some new diversity, some new blood on really both shows. And, you know, let's also talk about SmackDown. You know, Sheamus, he's been doing a fantastic job. I mean, he's been putting on some great 5-star quality type of matches. And for those of you that were not able to see SmackDown this past Friday night, we definitely have your SmackDown recap as one of the main highlights of the night for this past week's SmackDown was Sheamus taking on Tenzai. And, man, I was just really into this match. I mean, these guys were just really getting physical with one another. And, I mean, you saw welts, you saw blood. I mean, it was the real deal. They just were not holding back on each other. They were just going for it. And I must say, this was probably one of the best matches that I've seen to date for Lord Tenzai Albert, whatever you want to call him. This was one of his best matches to date. As I was watching Tenzai in the ring, I was not even thinking about his previous gimmicks. I was just really focused on this bout. Great work from both guys, but I was more impressed with Tenzai. And it just really had me saying to myself, man, once again, here we have Sheamus, who really, all you need to do is just give Sheamus an opponent, and he can pretty much do the rest. And I was just loving the way Sheamus was wrestling Tenzai. I mean, I was seeing him do stuff that he normally would not do in a typical match. That just had me saying, wow, this guy's actually a little bit technical / universal there. He knows how to really surprise you when he needs to. Of course, one of the other main highlights of the night for SmackDown was seeing the return of Vince McMahon. That's right, Vince McMahon had not been on SmackDown in almost 3 years, and on this special occasion, and you knew it was going to be a special occasion for Vince McMahon to pop up if it's been that long, Vinnie Mac would be on SmackDown to announce the new general manager for SmackDown. It was a person who he felt has been in the business for a long time, a person who he felt could definitely command that authority, that respect. It would be no other than the five-time, make it 6-time, because he did do one more there, 6-time WCW champion, Booker T. Tammy, your thoughts on Booker T being announced as the new SmackDown GM?
Kudos to him. Honestly, he's definitely one of the better picks for a GM for SmackDown. You know, I can honestly say I enjoy that pick for SmackDown much better than I do for Raw, because on Raw it's like, okay, what the hell? But for the pick for SmackDown, it's like, oh, okay, I can understand that. You know, I think he would make a much better GM than maybe possibly a commentator.
You're just so nice. You're like those nice, warm, gooey brownies that just come out of the oven, and you're like, oh, I just want one so bad. It's just so warm and gooey and delicious. It's just a big yum. But see, I gotta be real. Booker T freaking sucked as a commentator. That guy was just atrocious. I mean, I was like Santino when I saw Booker T come out and was announced as the new GM. I pulled a Santino moment. I just started doing the stupid little dance, and I had the air trombone, and I'm just dancing in a little circle, and I'm just celebrating that Booker T has basically been promoted, because there was only but so many freaking weeks I could hear the same freaking dialogue, you know. Oh yeah, Cole, he's in my fave 5. Oh yeah, can't you dig that? Oh my goodness, shaquackity quack quack, it's on like a pot of neck bones. There was only but so many times I could hear that ridiculous commentating, man. I was just really glad that he got promoted. And the GM role, it just seems to fit him so perfectly well. And see, that's the thing, folks. What you saw of Booker T on the commentating, it in my eyes, it just kind of hurt him a little bit, because we all know, at least those of us that have been hardcore Booker T fans, we know the guy can cut a frickin' promo. You know, it was just one of those type of deals where, unfortunately, him as a commentator, I don't know, he just, to me, kind of came off a bit ignorant, and it was a little bit insulting, because I knew what Booker T was really capable of. So to see him be a SmackDown GM, I thought it was a perfect role. Now, some people could kind of really overread that and say, wow, you have Vinnie Mac hire 2 nut jobs to be GMs, because let's not forget there was that one era where Booker T was running around with a Jamaican accent, and everybody was like, what the hell is wrong with you, man? And let's not forget when he was going around dubbing himself King Booker, as he was going around having a British accent. You know, he's shown cases of having a little bit of a bipolar split personality disorder there. Should be interesting to see what's going to be happening with Booker T as the SmackDown GM, but he was laying it down tonight, as we would see Alberto Del Rio pop up, and he tried to play a little bit of to Booker T, who wasn't even having that, and he would actually, in fact, tell Alberto Del Rio that he's going to be wrestling tonight. And keep in mind, Del Rio, he let it be known he is not wrestling until SummerSlam. Booker T was not having that. He said, look, I am your boss. I am the SmackDown GM. You will be in action tonight, as Alberto Del Rio was going to be taking on the Viper, Randy Orton, in the main event. Of course, one of the other highlights that we saw was a 6-man tag, as Miz had teamed up with Dolph Ziggler, and also teamed up with, I'm missing one other name. I can't think of the person right now. It'll come to me in a little bit, folks. Just bear with me. But they took on the team of Christian, Chris Jericho, Kane, and I actually remember the last person now. It was Christian, Chris Jericho, Kane, taking on the team of Miz, Dolph Ziggler, and Daniel Bryan. And I was really loving this tag team match, as we would see the bad guys pick up the win there. But one of the highlights that I had loved about this leading into the match, Tammy, was that Daniel Bryan, he bust out a new T-shirt. Can you believe this? I mean, this guy did not even have his new T-shirt. He didn't even have his new Yes gimmick, Yes lock. He didn't even have it for like 3 months, and already he has a new T-shirt, a new gimmick, a new finisher. I mean, you want to talk about the brilliance of the WWE/Daniel Bryan right now. Daniel Bryan is pulling a reverse. Instead of the yes chant, he is now doing the no chant. And his whole basis off it is telling the fans, you don't get to say yes. You don't get to say my catchphrases. Only I get to say yes. From here on out, it's all about me. I get to say it, not you. And really, brilliantly, knowing how to work the crowd as they're setting up when they see him, they're chanting yes, and he's got a freaking shirt on that says no, 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 and he's just walking down there chanting no, being so bold as to rename his finisher from the yes lock to the no lock. Tammy, your thoughts on just the brilliant move from WWE to have Daniel Bryan do the reverse and to have Daniel Bryan be able to perfectly sell it?
Well, you have Daniel Bryan, who's pretty much can usually sell anything to the crowd, but I think what he's kind of thinking of is the last time that AJ decided maybe she might send him to the nut house, and so he basically saying, no, no, no. But the next one is definitely maybe. But honestly, no, it is brilliant, and we're definitely, a brilliant plan, and he's definitely can pretty much sell the WWE crowd pretty much anything. He's just, that hot right now.
He really is, and I mean, shout out to those that sat up and said, oh, Daniel Bryan, he's just going to be a mid-card guy. He's not going to be elevated. He's done. Stick a fork in him. He is not done by a long shot. I mean, that guy just has so much creative juices, just the way that he just works with that crowd. I mean, to compare the Daniel Bryan that we see now to the Daniel Bryan that we first saw that popped up on NXT, I mean, it's like literally two completely different guys. I mean, it's still the same old Daniel Bryan, but it's a more experienced Daniel Bryan now. Now that he's been WWE seasoned, if you will. He's just, that's just right. That's perfect. He is just really, and the best part is his best days have yet to come. I mean, if he's able to work a crowd like this, there's just no telling what the hell this guy is going to be able to do once he becomes a WWE champion. And, to those guys that, want to sit up and they want to take their shots at Daniel Bryan, just a little trivia for you guys. Not 1 month, not 2 months, but 3 consecutive months. Pretty much every single time CM Punk hooked it up with Daniel Bryan this year, WWE Creative was like really, and I do mean really, seriously giving great consideration to putting the WWE title on Daniel Bryan. That's how hot they realized he was, but when they really started thinking about it, they kind of said, well, it really wouldn't make much sense, to pull the move. It's a little too early to do it. They realized they had to stay with CM Punk just a little while longer. But just the fact that they were willing on 3 occasions, almost practically every single time him and Punk locked it up, for them to think, well, let's go with Daniel Bryan, that says a lot about the guy, I feel. Wouldn't you agree, Tammy?
I do agree. You know, I saw him when he was really doing his thing with the wrestling when he was right before he won, I think, Money in the Bank last year, if I'm not mistaken. And I looked at him, and I saw the potential then for what he can be. And, boy, has he really stepped it up and became that person that I thought he could be. And still to come, I mean, you know, he's just getting started for, you know, what he's going to be doing in his career going forward. And, you know, he's just really plugging it along. And, you know, I really think you have a point. I don't think he's quite ready for the WWE belt just yet. But I know that they have, you know, been putting the world title belt on him, which I do think he deserves.
Yeah, no, excuse me. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he definitely deserves a run, you know. And he's going to get it. I mean, like I said, you know, last week, they just need to get through the Del Rio, the Ziggler, The Rock, possibly John Cena. They just need to get all those guys out the way first, and then they will definitely focus more on Daniel Bryan. I have a feeling, folks, that when it's all said and done, 2013 will be the year of Daniel Bryan. You can definitely mark my words on that. I just think they just need to get through all those other people that need to have a turn with the bottle. You know, they're passing it around right now, trying to get that sip before Bryan has his share of it. So, you know, just kick back and just wait. You know, but great things are going to continue to happen for Daniel Bryan. I just love that. I just think that's freaking brilliant. You know, I've never seen anybody be able to work a crowd that quickly in a new catchphrase. I mean, that's just freaking brilliant. Of course, we also saw Ryback and Jinder Mahal in action. And Jinder Mahal, who's been getting a little bit of praise from the WWE, they're starting to come around to this guy. They're starting to like his work a little more. They see the potential in him possibly being a main event player. They've been having him for 2 consecutive weeks now, Tammy, working with Ryback, where for once we don't see Ryback getting that easy win as he's so used to getting in under 3 minutes. Looks like now Ryback is possibly going to have an actual program with Jinder Mahal. Could it conclude at SummerSlam? Possibly, but last week on SmackDown, we saw Ryback take on Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal, he gets all frustrated. He says, you know what, I'm just going to leave this ring. I'm done with you. You know, I'll deal with you another time. And Ryback gets the win via countout. Well, we would have a rematch as a result of what Mahal did last week. And this week we see Mahal, he is getting his ass beat. And once again, we see Mahal, he sits up. He doesn't want to have anything to do with Ryback. He leaves the ring. Ryback gives chase. Mahal grabs a microphone and just glocks Ryback over the head with it to receive a disqualification. But he could care less. As far as he's concerned, he was not trying to be another victim of Ryback. But it looks like Ryback has the perfect timing right now as he finally has a program. Tammy, your thoughts on Ryback finally getting a program with somebody?
I think that's good because, honestly, the easy win is going to get real old real quick for the fans. So you have best to put him in a program to where he can work that program to keep the interest of the fans, because if you don't, you are going to lose them.
Yeah, you know, and now the element that WWE has created now with this is, okay, we are getting sick and tired of seeing this guy try to come up with a way to get out of this match. We want to see him get his ass beat where he's not taking some easy way out. You know, you do this right, you have it conclude at a pay-per-view, the payoff could definitely be decent. Now, some people will sit up and say that they don't really care too much for Jinder Mahal, but I think we all can definitely be in agreement. Him basically backing down from a whooping, you definitely want to be able to see him get what's coming to him if it's finally announced that, hey, at this pay-per-view, you two are going to be getting it on, and just to make sure that we have a winner, here's how it's going to be happening. I think definitely a lot of people would be tuning in just to see Ryback finally give Jinder Mahal what is definitely going to be coming to him. So definitely interesting development right here. Another interesting development, Tammy, we finally heard Ryback talk, and I'm not talking about that whole feed me, Seymour, feed me. I'm not talking about that crap. I mean, we actually heard Ryback talk for like 30 seconds, and it was nice hearing it because I could have gotten on YouTube at any time, and I could have just typed in, one of the original names that he had floating around, especially when he was with the New Nexus, and I could have sat up and heard his voice then, but I just kind of like the whole element of, hey, it's this guy Ryback, he's not really talking, I wonder how he sounds. So I kind of like that element. I understand that he's coming back as a repackaged character, so I loved hearing him talk finally. I love how he kept it brief, though. You don't want to talk too much, because you talk too much, then you kind of lose the crowd there. But, yeah, Ryback finally talked. Ryback finally working a program. Good developments here for Mr. Feed Me More. And, of course, our main event of the evening, we would see Randy Orton take on Alberto Del Rio. Well, folks, this match would end in a no contest as we saw Ricardo Rodriguez interfere in this match, and unfortunately Alberto Del Rio looked like he was not going to be the victim of the RKO. Well, we would see Sheamus actually have something to say about that, as he had grabbed Del Rio as he was trying to make his exit from the arena and throw him into the ring where Randy Orton was waiting, as the Viper struck with that devastating RKO. Nobody does it better, maybe Diamond Dallas Page, but Randy Orton knows how to deliver that devastating RKO, as that, folks, is your SmackDown recap. This is what we're going to do right now because we've only got hour one in the books. We're going to come right back, and we're going to get you guys caught up on the very latest in wrestling-related news, and we'll get you guys caught up on the very latest in entertainment news. And it's another cool installment of Hidden Gems, where I'm going to be recommending to you what you should check out on your spare time, DVD-wise, book-wise, music-wise. So we're just getting the show started, folks. So go on ahead and hang tight. We'll be coming right back. You're listening to the RCWR Show Weekend Report on August 4th, 2012. We'll be coming right back, folks. Do hang tight.
Tired of those wrestling websites that give you redirects, spyware, weird pop-ups? How about those misleading headlines? Instead of hitting the keyboard in frustration, why not visit InfinityOneProductions.com? Infinity One is the source for wrestling-related news and so much more without all the hassle. Visit InfinityOneProductions.com. Your keyboard will thank you.
Hey guys, Lee Sanders here with the RCWR Show, and I'd like to take this time out to tell you about one or two quick apps that I think you should check out when you get a free moment. First app I'd like to recommend to you is the app from Stitcher. Now, Stitcher allows you to be able to play all our episodes of the RCWR Show and Impact Showdown on your portable devices, such as an Android phone, Kindle Fire, iPad, you name it, it'll be able to play it. So definitely highly recommend that you check that out. It's available for free in the App Store. Stitcher, new and smart way to play radio. Also, another cool app that I'd like to recommend to you all is a new app that came out not too long ago from Apple. That's right, Apple has recently come out with a free podcast app. Now, This app is really cool, folks, because after we are done doing our shows, all you have to do is just subscribe to our episodes. And you can do this by downloading this new free podcast app. All you have to do, visit the App Store on your iPhone or iPad and just search podcast. Once the app is downloaded, you can then type in the name of our shows, the RCWR Show and Impact Showdown, and you'll be able to subscribe. It's that easy. So you have two cool free apps that you can check out and take all our episodes with you on the go. So get to it already.
All right, and we're back. You're listening to the RCWR Show Weekend Report on August 4th, 2012. And I'm joined by my special co-host for tonight, the lovely co-producer Tammy. Always appreciate it when you are helping me out here. All right, so we're going to be opening up the phone lines in the later part of the show, so do keep it tuned, as we'll definitely do our part to get you in, as we love hearing from you guys. So just in case you want to get a head start and make sure that you are able to get on here, feel free to I guess I could quietly give that number out there right now while a few people might not be paying attention. Before a lot of people start calling in, feel free to call in. You can listen to the show, while you're waiting to hear your thoughts, heard on the air, you know what I'm saying? I kind of sound like that guy from SNL,
Right, you
no.
sound like Rocky.
That's what it is. Hey, Adrian, I was thinking maybe you and me, yeah.
That's right.
Anyway, 646-478-3525, 646-478-3525. We'll open up our phone lines in the last 20 minutes of the show, so do sit tight, folks. All right, so we got a little bit of wrestling-related news that we definitely want to cover, and I thought this was very interesting, Tammy. Vince McMahon, he had revealed recently some key points that he had made from a recent WWE conference call that took place on Thursday. And one of the things that he had talked about was opening up a new wrestling show for the network that he felt made sense money-wise, as they're planning to have some type of live programming on the WWE Network. Now, for those of you that have not been keeping tabs on the WWE Network, the latest buzz that we are hearing right now on the Wrestling Beat is that the WWE Network has been pushed back yet again. Now we're hearing that it may not make its debut until the first quarter of 2013. Tammy, I know you and me, we were very excited, as well as other WWE fans, when we first saw when we were watching this past year's WrestleMania, that a new era of television was about to begin when they have showed the first commercial for the WWE Network, and they were talking about 2 shows that they were already beginning to film, and we're sitting up saying to ourselves, okay, well, when is it going to happen? When is it going to be on cable? Which provider is going to be having it? And no deals happened. It just kept getting pushed back. Then we heard maybe it was going to be popping up 3-4 months later. Then we're hearing maybe at the end of the year. Now we're hearing that it's not going to be popping up until 2013. It just really brings the question to mind right now, is this network really going to happen, or is it just all a bunch of talk?
Well, it sounds more like, financial red tape to me. They're going to have to put some kind of special show on the WWE Network to get the viewers to tune in. I mean, I can't see any other way of doing that. If they don't bring something extra to, besides, what they're doing as far as the classics and so on and so forth, they're going to have something that's going to pique the interest for the WWE fans to tune in. And actually, to purchase the channels.
Yeah, they are. I mean, one of the talks that's going around is that maybe they could start offering their pay-per-views on that network. You just basically pay a flat-out rate, and I mean, there's just so many other loopholes that WWE is going to have to get through to really make this be polished off. I just really have great concern for this, and just the amount of money that Vince McMahon is putting into this. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't even, who am I to give advice to a self-proclaimed billionaire? But, I'm just seeing what all has been happening this year with the WWE Network supposedly launching and the problems that they've been having with finding a cable provider to actually air the network. I mean, to date, they still cannot even tell us who they're going to be working with for their cable provider because none of them want to touch it right now. I would just sit up and I wouldn't even put a time frame out there. I wouldn't even be like, 2013, yeah. I wouldn't even be doing any of that. I would just sit up and I would just take that their sweet time, work through whatever little loopholes that needs to be worked over, fine-tune everything, don't rush it, really take the time. This idea first came into surface. I believe we heard buzz about a WWE network maybe about 2 years ago almost. So, really just take your time and just, honestly, if it takes almost 5 years to make it happen, so be it. I personally, I don't think it should really take that long, but I just kind of feel like they need to just stop with the ETA, stop with the ETA and just go on ahead and just go at their own pace, because I just have this weirdest feeling that if they're not careful, they're going to have a catastrophe on their hands. And, I don't like bringing up the XFL, but I just can't help but think of how much of a disaster that was that Vince McMahon came up with. I mean, it was a great idea. It was a nice concept, but it was something that was, already done and magnified and taken to its truest potential. There was really no need for Vinnie Mac to even go into that field. So the WWE Network, it has a lot more promise than that. I mean, it's a no-brainer. But, they really need to just take their time and really work these loopholes out. I think if there is ever a great example of really being able to take your time with launching your own network, Tammy, I think Vince McMahon needs to look at what has happened with Oprah Winfrey and her own network, which continues to struggle.
That's agreed. When you mention it, it's one thing, but when you mention it over and over and over, and then you're saying, well, it's gotten pushed back to this date, that date, the other date, unfortunately, your fans are going to lose a little bit of interest in what you're promising. Unfortunately for them, what they really need is to go ahead, like you said, fix the glitches, fix whatever financial or, whatever pieces of the puzzle is missing, heck of a promotion once they know that it's about to happen. I mean, once the deal is done, just promote the heck out of it. You know, for the first little bit, do classics. I mean, how many of your own listeners have said, you know, I love watching the classic matches? Matter of fact, yourself, you love watching the classic matches. And you know, bring a little old and new, you know, to that so that you have, you know, a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, no doubt. That's exactly how they need to do it right now. Just take your dear sweet time, fine tune everything. You know, it's just like working on a movie script. I mean, this is the perfect analogy that I can think of, and then I definitely want to cover the other key highlights that Vince McMahon had during this conference call. You know, I could just think of it from a writing standpoint. It's like coming up with a script for a movie or coming up with a script for a comic book or whatever, and you know, you have the blueprints down, but, you know, now it's time for you to go on ahead and you need to get the materials together. You got to make sure that the money is put to the side so you can get those materials. Then you got to make sure that, you know, once it's all good and ready, that, you know, it's complete and you're able to pitch it to the publishers, agent, you know, publications, whatever. You know, you can't just really come to them and be like, yeah, I got this idea. Well, where's the paperwork? It's in my head. You know, they're going to be, well, you know, it's like, okay, well, it sounds good, but, you know, we need to actually see something. You know, it's basically, you know, absolutely. You know, it's literally like that, you know. One other key point that Vince McMahon would bring up is talking about Raw and SmackDown, which he feels is considerably the best that it's been right now, as he feels that it just continues to evolve. As somebody had questioned whether or not they were possibly entertaining the idea of trying to make the shows be more edgier. And Vince also mentioned that he hopes to have a main event TV show that will premiere later this year in October, that he hopes will help reach a new audience. You know, honestly, I think one of the things that should be addressed for the WWE right now is they need to go on ahead and they need to possibly take a page out of TNA's book, and they need to possibly entertain the idea of having SmackDown be live on a regular basis. That would eliminate a lot of dirt sheets that have their little people sitting and waiting to get the SmackDown reports from their friends or whoever is in attendance. I mean, if you ever needed a perfect example of that, look at what happened with this past SmackDown. Now, SmackDown airs on Tuesday. Word was already spreaded on who the new general manager was for that. And guess what? WWE, they had no choice but to make it official on Wednesday. And normally they don't talk about stuff that happens on SmackDown on their website. They always talk about it as it's in progress the day that it airs. That's usually their MO. So it really wouldn't hurt to kind of think about, you know, the idea of having SmackDown be live on a regular basis, as you would just really eliminate just a lot of headaches right there, you know. And, you know, we actually didn't even read the spoilers for SmackDown. As soon as we heard on Raw that Vince McMahon was going to be popping up on SmackDown, I am very passionate. I always say bump the dirt sheets. Just watch the freaking show. You know, you're either going to watch it or you're not going to watch it. If you don't care too much for SmackDown, then you're missing out, because a lot of times SmackDown puts on one hell of a great show, I feel. Another WWE news note is recently Randy Orton has revealed that he's going to be working with WWE Studios and 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, as he's going to be starring in 12 Rounds Reloaded. Now, this is going to be a direct-to-home video sequel to the film that John Cena starred in and made popular in 2009. We have a little bit of the synopsis that's going to be happening with this movie, as Orton will be portraying a EMT who finds himself caught in a deadly 12-round game of cat and mouse with a vengeful man tied to Randy Orton's character's past. So it sounds like it's going to be kind of decent right here. Definitely looking forward to seeing how this plays out. Now, it should be noted that earlier this year, Orton was set to be the main star in the Marine home front for WWE Studios and Fox, but he was eventually replaced by The Miz after the companies were very quickly reminded by those serving in the military of Randy Orton's dishonorable discharge from the Marines. So very nice to see Randy Orton is coming back with a little bit of a rebound there. It looks as if the talk about possibly not having him get pushed again, Tammy, it looks as if he's definitely not being held back right now.
I think I agree with you on that as far as not being held back. And, you know, just what you had said before, what a good job by the WWE not to cast him in that, you know, after, you know, knowing what they know. But then going ahead and having him star in something else, you know, fresh off of coming back, you know, hopefully he's back better than ever, stronger, all the above.
Without a doubt, and hopefully he can stay out of trouble this time around. I mean, he really needs to. You know, they're putting a lot of faith into him right now, and you know, he would be letting a lot of people down, not just the fans, but he would be letting a lot of people down if he screws up this time around. Of course, we got to mention WWF wrestling legend Kamala. This was one of the main highlights that we were going to be talking about on tonight's show. Now, Kamala, he recently made headlines. Now, just to get you all quickly updated, for those of you that have not been keeping tabs on the wrestling legend, the Uganda Giant, Kamala, he had recently lost his other leg due to health complications tied into diabetes. So he's now a double amputee, folks. And basically what ended up happening was former WWE diva Dawn Marie, she had created this website called WrestlersRescue.org, and basically the main gist of this website was to basically pull in money through charitable work by having auctions or whatever, and whatever money they're able to make off of the items that they have for auction, it goes to those wrestlers in need. Now, her website has come under great scrutiny in the past, as supposedly some money was raised for Kamala, as she had got in contact with Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett sent her a signed guitar, and she had it up for auction on her site. We're not sure what the end bid was, but somehow mysteriously the website just goes rogue. I mean, it's just dead. And the only time that happens, folks, is when the person decides that they no longer want to pay the bills for the server. And just for the server, get this, you would think that it would be mad buku's money. It's not. We know, because we have a freaking website. We know how much we're paying our server. Most cases, it's only like $10, $15 a month that you're paying. So that just lets you know right there, oh, snap, there's definitely a red flag going on right here with Dawn Marie's little website or whatever. So there was this wrestling promotion called Millennium Wrestling Federation that said that they were going to try to send money to Kamala, and Kamala, he went to YouTube earlier this week, and he had sent out this 8-minute video basically bashing Don Marie and basically bashing Millennium Wrestling Federation hit promoter Dan Marotti, saying basically, quote unquote, he could take whatever money that he might have raised, whatever money that Don Marie might have raised or whatever. Basically, he could go to New Jersey and he can stick it straight up Don Marie's ass. Now, keep in mind, this is all stemming from Kamala saying that this promotion, they're no good. They said they were going to send him money. They didn't. Well, Dan Marotti would reply to Kamala on their website, and they just showed like a picture and an email. And the picture, Lord knows, I have had my share of asking for a money order. And those of you that are not familiar with a money order, when you go into a bank or whatever and you say, hey, I want a money order, that's freaking cash. That is better than a freaking check. Because basically you could take that money order, you got money, okay? That's how I know how to wrap that up in a nutshell, Tammy. You got money when you get a money order. I guess that's why it's called money order, okay? So they show this money order in the amount of like $425. That's the picture in black and white. You see who it's made out to, and it's made out to this organization that's somehow tied to Kamala. I guess he deals directly with them or whatever, not really sure. But they sent him an email saying, hey, we sent out the money. It was mailed out on Friday. Kamala did the video on Tuesday. So Dan Marotti was responding to that video this past Wednesday night. And they just really felt heartbroken. They felt really disgusted by Kamala. They sat up and said that, he should be ashamed of himself and the way he's portraying himself. He's basically sitting up begging for money. He wants people to feel sorry for him. And, they took some really serious shots at him. And they sat up and said, you really shouldn't be sitting up waiting for a handout. If you just would have kept your mouth shut, we would have continued to help you. But this is how you're going to treat us, And, it's kind of sad and it's kind of jacked up when you think about everything that's happened. At the same time, it's kind of like, man, we need to hear both sides of the story is where I'm getting to. And we actually have been in contact with Kamala this weekend, and we've been encouraging him to come on the show because, we definitely want to hear his side of the story. And when I say we've actually been in contact with him, we have actually directly been in contact with him. So hopefully we can have him come on the show because, I definitely want to hear his side of the story because on the one side, Tammy, you see Don Mariotti, he's got this picture of this money order, and I happen to know a thing or two about money orders, and I know a thing or two about how shipping works when you mail something off to somebody, especially if it's in the U.S. I used to make a killing off eBay selling WWE collectibles and all kinds of cool, crazy stuff back in the day. And I could just tell you, just by giving me the city and the state, how long it's going to take for something to get to whatever destination as long as it's in the U.S. So for Kamala to not receive a check by now, and to date, Kamala has not sent any video, no tweet, nothing saying that he got his check. So, it kind of lets you sit up and say to yourself, there's something weird going on here. Tammy, I definitely would like to get your thoughts on that because I know that kind of, you weren't really too sure what was going on with that till we came on the air.
Yeah, well, honestly, there's a couple of different, scenarios, and, like you said, you really would like to hear his, side of the story. But honestly, you look at both sides and you kind of can't help but wonder what the heck, is going on here. Not to mention, okay, you know that something's supposed to happen, and you know that you see what's happening, with this website that's not even there anymore. But still, okay, so you can't pick up a phone and call somebody to say, this is what I'm hearing. Is this correct? Is my money on the way? Before you decide to blast it all over YouTube and basically stick your foot in your mouth and bite the hand that feeds you. I mean, literally.
You know, and here's the beautiful thing about those money orders, folks. If a situation, if, and it's like that 1%, if there was a screw-up with the Postal Service and that money order did not get to its destination, it got lost, Dan Mariotti or whoever made out that money order, it would be very easy for them to get their money back as long as they kept that receipt part. I know, I've done it before. I've mailed off a money order, but then, I've tried to mail off a money order but had lost it as I was getting ready to drop it off in the mailbox, and by the grace of God, I luckily had the receipt stub, and I just went down to, I think it was Western Union I had went to, and, you know, I had told them what had happened, and I gave them the little stub part that is attached to the money order, and they took about $10 at the time out of what I should have been, you know, getting back grand total, but that was their fee for basically giving me back the money. But you can get your money back is what I'm saying. So, you know, definitely two different sides to this story. We also reached out to Dan Mariotti and the Millennium Wrestling Federation. We said, hey, we definitely want to hear your side too. So we extended a warm invitation to both of them, Millennium Wrestling Federation. We have not heard anything from them. As far as I'm concerned, that looks a little bit shady from them, you know, because they could have even taken the high route and say, you know what, we don't want to be on your show, but we would appreciate it if you could read this statement, you know, on our behalf. And, you know, just the fact that they haven't acknowledged us, to me, that, you know, Tammy, that just sends a bad message because, you know, Kamala, he didn't have to reply to us. He could have just been like, no, you know, I decline. But the fact that, you know, he is interested in having his side of the story spoken, you know, it just kind of says to me a little bit when I really think about it that there's definitely something shady going on here. And Kamala has said from day one, if you want to donate directly to him, you can. And for those of you that are listening, if you do want to donate to the man directly, you can do so. And, you know, we don't even have him saying he's going to come onto the show. We're just doing this out of the kindness of our hearts, you know. If you want to donate to him, you can hit him up with an email. Or if you don't want to donate anything to him, and he doesn't mind not getting a donation, even if you just want to send him get well wishes. He loves hearing from fans. You can hit him up at jkimala@AOL.com. Once again, that's jkimala@AOL.com. We got nothing to gain from plugging that, folks. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. We're just keeping it real. You know, we're just trying to, you know, look out for a brother. That's all that is, folks. But, yeah, so hopefully we'll have a little bit more on that. Let's switch it up now. Let's cover what all had happened on TNA Impact Wrestling. You know, one of the main highlights from Impact Wrestling was whether or not we were going to see the return of the Aces and Eights. As past consecutive weeks, they've just been beating up the TNA roster. They've taken out Hulk Hogan. They took out Sting for a little bit. They beat down on Kurt Angle. They beat up on Bully Ray. They've been messing with the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Austin Aries, but the only person that they did not touch was James Storm, and this would prompt Robert Roode to sit up and say, you know what, James Storm is the one behind the Aces and Eights, and from what we saw this past Thursday night, it fuels his speculation even more. As Tammy, who'd have thought we would see TNA Impact Wrestling open up with a tag team brawl, but it would end in a brawl, as we saw the two men that kicked off the show in the show, as we saw Robert Roode trying to team up with Bully Ray to beat down on James Storm as the TNA champion Austin Aries quickly jumps into the ring and he just starts beating down on Robert Roode as Kurt Angle is trying to play peacemaker and break it up to end that episode of Impact Wrestling. I have a strong feeling that we're going to see some type of a 3-on-3 tag match now, as we're going to be just on the eve of the TNA Hardcore Justice pay-per-view next week. I definitely want to get your thoughts on this whole Aces and Eights possible James Storm connection.
Well, that's an interesting combination of wrestlers and what's being put together. So I'm interested to see exactly how they play out each story.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be kind of, definitely got the curiosity peaked there. And, for those of you that love TNA Impact Wrestling, you'll definitely love our Impact Showdown radio that comes on every single Thursday night at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, right after Impact Wrestling. You definitely want to check that out. We do our best to not sit up and compare TNA to WCW. We be paying attention to what you guys be saying. We know that there are some wrestling radio shows out there that can't help but connect TNA Impact Wrestling to WCW. You're not going to get that talk with us when you check out Impact Showdown Radio. What we can promise you, though, is if TNA happens to put on a bad product, we definitely will let our voices be heard, but at the same time, it will be in a constructive type of way. So you definitely will appreciate that. And we always try to keep it be as constructive as possible with all the shows that we do. So just thought I'd put that out there because I was paying attention to some of the tweets, some comments that were floating around on some people's reviews of past couple of weeks TNA Impact Wrestling, and for some weird reason there's been a lot of reference to WCW, and yeah, we get that Eric Bischoff is there, we get that Hulk Hogan is there, and a lot of people, they just want to just tie TNA into WCW, but I just think that argument, to me, it really doesn't win when you're talking about TNA. I am one of those type of people. Come on now, do you have to go to WCW route? That's just too easy. Come up with something better. That's I don't know if you would agree with that, Tammy, but that's just my whole thing. Come up with something better.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. It's the same old rehashed, over and over again of the comparisons. Yeah.
Just take it, just take the product for what it is. There's no reason to overanalyze, because I think that's what's really happening with some people. Unfortunately, they are overanalyzing TNA. Just take it for what it's worth, and hey, sometimes they put on a really good show. And if I got to be honest, this past Thursday night it was a little bit lukewarm. I gave it a 7 out of 10, because I did write a review for it on our website at InfinityOneProductions.com, and I gave it a 7 out of 10. It wasn't anything that I was gonna remember. I damn sure don't appreciate the whole Claire Lynch actress, and I'm gonna have some fun with her before this weekend is out, because I have come across some pictures, and I'm going to create the best top 10 caption moments for Claire Lynch, and I'm just going to have some really cool little text that's going to be attached with her pictures. Y'all will be able to check that out on our Facebook page. It's going to be pretty funny. I think y'all will get a kick out of that. It's just amazing how many pictures you can find of Claire Lynch if you do a Google search. And surprisingly, there's this weird sick person that has a fan page for Claire Lynch on Facebook. And I just thought that was a little bit disturbing. And this person claims that they are a tremendous fan of Claire Lynch. I'm thinking to myself, this must be her boyfriend or somebody, that decided to make this page and dedicate it to her. I just thought that was kind of disturbing there. Let's switch gears up, folks, because we're winding down on time. Let's get you guys caught up briefly on what's been happening with entertainment news. We got Queensryche fans. I know Tammy isn't a Queensryche fan because she doesn't follow 80s rock for nothing, so I guess I'm alone on here, or maybe there's some of you that are out there that actually remember Queensryche. Well, the new Queensryche singer, Todd Latour, has recently been denying fans' allegations that the band has been using backing tapes of former vocalist Geoff Tate's voice at their current live shows. That's right. Now, last weekend, the latest lineup of Queensryche, they made their official appearance under the Queensryche title after performing just a handful of shows as Rising West before firing Tate in June. But Latour, who also sings for Crimson Glory, recently took to Facebook to deal with the accusations that the former singer's work could be heard from the stage. Instead, he's saying that it's just all him and bassist Eddie Jackson. So, really interesting development right here, as he would go on to say, and I quote, "Many believe they are hearing Tate's voice. Let me clearly state that there are no backing vocals with his voice in any songs with my performance. Any tracks that may have backing vocals have all been re-recorded with my voice and Eddie's. We don't use tracks to fake a lead vocal with me, but simply to give a fuller, nicer sound to a chorus. Yes, they are very similar and would naturally be heard by Geoff's, but they are not." So very interesting development right there. As meanwhile, Geoff Tate is continuing to block his former bandmates from accessing the Queensryche website and social media channels. This is according to his former bandmates, as the former singer's representative has recently been arguing over a court ruling that has allowed his former bandmates to continue using the band name. And as a result of that, he has gotten the impression that he could do the same as well, which kind of prompts the suggestion, folks, that we could be seeing two Queensryche bands running around. This could be a case of two Temptations running around, folks. Really weird right here. As the founding members of Queensryche, they fired Tate last month, and the reason why they had fired him was because they had found out that Tate had signed a secret deal to make a movie based on Queensryche Operation Mindcrime album and had threatened to kill Rockenfield, while the singer admitted he had got stuck with he basically had gotten involved into a little bit of a scuffle with his colleagues, but he later regretted the action. Now, so far, Geoff Tate, he is going around and he has created a and Tammy, you saw this logo before we went on the air. Geoff Tate, he has this Queensryche logo that just looks eerily similar to the Queensryche logo that is being used right now by the new band, and he is dubbing himself Geoff Tate, true vocalist of Queensryche. That's what he's going off of. Very, mind-boggling twist of events right here, as on the one side, Geoff did not create this band. He was their original singer, but he did not have a hand in forming this band. It is really a case of who has more of a right to the intellectual property, but the court had already ruled in their favor, but now we're seeing this guy still trying to figure out a way to live off of the name. You're an R&B fan and all that. I know you have a extensive knowledge of what all had happened with the Temptations and all that, I can only ask you to kind of comment on this, keeping what went down with two Temptations running around. What do you make of all this craziness?
Yes, Lee, I understand your point on that with the Temptations, with Otis Williams being that front man, or certainly one of the founding members of the Temptations. And he basically said, okay, you know what? At this point, it's still my group. I'm going to go ahead and basically get some new members. I still have the need to perform and want to go with it. So I guess in a way that in his own way, GF Tate wants to go ahead and say, you know what? I want to do it again. Unfortunately, does that give him the right to kind of revamp? Not sure how that is. A little bit the same scenario where you have Frankie Lyman, who actually was a back in the day singer. They portrayed him in the movie Why Do Fools Fall in Love. He actually basically said, you know what? I really don't need you guys. I'm kind of tired of you, so I'm really just going to go do my own solo career. And best of luck to you. Now with GF Tate, that particular emblem that he's making for the new covers, or basically the band sign, it looked awful much of a resemblance to the original, kind of the .20, honestly. And he's actually appearing on the other that metal show, and we actually would love to hear his side of the story and what he has his takeaway from exactly what's being said.
Let's get you caught up on some more entertainment news that is going on right now. I got some Anthrax news for you guys, as in light of current reports that surfaced describing a recent altercation between Anthrax drummer Charlie Bennett and his wife, which led to their arrest. This was the following statements that's been released from Charlie Bennett's lawyer. Now, according to this, the drummer now, Charlie Bennett of Anthrax, he was assaulted several times during an altercation that sent him to an emergency room with a gash at the back of his head that required several staples to close. Now, this all just stems off of Bennett and his 6-year-old daughter, Maya, traveling to Indianapolis to meet with Mrs. Bennett and her 17-year-old son, who just so happened to be participating at a weekend baseball series. At some point, words were exchanged between the Mr. and the Mrs., and apparently she had a male companion that was there that got into it with Charlie, and from there she got in on it by hitting him in the face. He pushed her away, but then as it turned out, as he got ready to turn around and leave with his daughter, homegirl assaulted him from behind and hit him multiple times on the back of the head with a cell phone. That is one heavy piece of fucking cell phone if you're able to make that much of a impact on somebody's head where they got to get several staples. In the meantime, they both were arrested and they were detained for domestic battery in front of a child. So more news on that as we get you all caught up. And I know we got some That Metal Show fans. Get ready, man. That Metal Show is going to be coming back kicking better than ever as they're getting ready to come back for their 11th season. It's going to be happening August 11th. And just so happened to see some of the guests that's going to be coming by on the show. Looks like we got GF Tate of Queens, right? He's going to be showing up right along with Zach Wilde. We also see that Lita Ford is going to be returning. Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony of Chickenfoot, former members of Van Halen. They're going to be popping up on there. Mark Tremonti of Ultra Bridge, Creed. He's also going to be popping up on there. And guess who's going to be returning to That Metal Show this season? We got Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, that's right, they're going to be returning. Doug Aldrich of Whitesnake, Dio, he's going to be popping up as well. So get ready. That's the 11th season of That Metal Show, and it's going to be coming this August 11th. You can catch that on VH1 Classics. And if you don't have VH1 Classics, it might be time for you to switch your cable provider because you're really missing out on some really cool stuff. All right, this is what we're going to do right now. We're going to go on ahead, and we're going to take a brief commercial break, and I do mean brief. When we come right back, we're going to go on ahead, and we're going to open up our fan line, get you all's reactions, comments, general thoughts, and then we'll do another installment of Hidden Gems as it makes its long-awaited return. So, hang tight, folks. We'll be coming right back. You're listening to the RCWR Show Weekend Report.
Live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., this is the RCWR Show with your host, Lee Sanders.
Yeah, we're back. You listen to the RCWR Show Weekend Edition. Always 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Black Avenger, Lee Sanders, joined by the lovely co-producer, Tammy. Hey, Tammy.
Hey, how's it going, Lee?
Well, I'm going pretty good. Where'd you go? Did you go bake a cake or something?
I just had to go downstairs and get something. Thought I'd be back up before you noticed I was going, but boy, was I wrong.
Meg, I brought up a very interesting topic, and it would have had you fit in so perfectly, but it's okay. We'll do it at another time there. All right, let's go ahead and let's open up the wrestling fan line right now. For those of you that want to call in, share your thoughts, feel free to do so. 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. Do hope everybody's been enjoying the show so far, despite my temporary co-host for tonight going MIA there. All right, we got a caller from the 269 area code. That's our good friend Dave. Dave, you're live on the air, my friend. How you been?
Hey, I hope everything's okay, my friend, today. I heard some stuff, so I just want to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good. Thank you.
I want to touch on a few things. I want to get your opinion on it, too.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Booker T as the new GM. Mm-hmm. I also thought that the commentary this week without him was really kind of lagging because what he does bring is entertainment to the commentator's booth.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, do you think we're almost ready for a draft again? Because it needs something to happen with Raw and SmackDown. It needs something to change or something.
Yeah, something does need to happen there. Thank you, Dave, for that call. As always, we appreciate it, bro. Tammy, you want to tackle that one with regards to a draft? I mean, we just saw Raw do a 1,000th episode. They just rebranded it Raw. They are giving the illusion that they're done with that whole Raw Super Show thing. Do you think maybe a draft might be needed? What do you think?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. That was something in the back of my head that I thought might need to happen. Matter of fact, I was thinking to myself, about a year and a half ago, right after WrestleMania, they did have somewhat of a draft, if I'm not mistaken, and was kind of wondering where that was. I actually do kind of think that might not be a bad idea to kind of shuffle some people, around and give it kind of a facelift, for, lack of better words, but in that new energy, to have, your people watching both shows because some of their favorite wrestlers have either went to Raw or SmackDown.
I would have to think about that one. I don't know. I mean, who? I think the question I'm trying to wrap my brain around right now is who would you shuffle? You really, you don't really have a lot of people that you can shuffle right now. There's not really that many. I really don't know. Who would you shuffle?
Kind of what we had talked about before is, having CM Punk go to SmackDown and having, Cena stay with Raw. And, maybe shuffle those, those two, actually just one of them. The other, is maybe some of the, putting a couple of more stronger performers on the SmackDown side to make that a stronger show.
Because eventually what I see happening, and I do hope I'm wrong, but the way it's looking right now, I see Damian Sandow, who surprisingly did not have a match of any kind on SmackDown this past Friday. I see Damian Sandow sometime next year permanently being on the Raw roster. I see Ryback possibly permanently being on the Raw roster. So then it's kind of like Raw is going to be really freaking jam-packed, especially when you have 3 hours to fill. And that's the other thing where I'm kind of at right now, Tammy, is that you have Raw on for 3 hours. I think at this point there really is no need to have a draft because that's 3 hours that you got to do week in and week out. You're going to have to reach out to the SmackDown roster to fill in some of that time. So I don't really believe that there really isn't a need for a SmackDown draft. I think if anything, you just take key wrestlers, like with the CM Punk. I could see a perfect storyline with him where he just gets frustrated with what all is happening on Raw, because I just think that would be a really brilliant storyline if they did it right, where CM Punk just feels that he's being screwed around on Raw, and that could really be a great storyline right there, where he's not the main event, he doesn't close out the show, he feels like he's always getting gypped around. That would be a good storyline right there, to just see him take his ball and go over to SmackDown, and next thing you know, we see him talking with Booker T, and Booker T sits up and says, yeah, I would love to have you sign to SmackDown. Sure, definitely, welcome on board. I could see something like that kind of happening, but not a total reshuffle. I could maybe see Kane or Big Show go back just so some of the younger guys on the Raw side could get more of their spotlight, but I don't really see a full-blown draft happening just because Raw is now 3 hours.
Yeah, I guess you make a valid point, with that 3-hour show and needing to, make it entertaining for all 3 hours of, not being able to really shuffle anybody, to lose that momentum.
Yeah, and with regards to Booker T's commentating being missed, yeah, it did kind of come off a little bit flat because it kind of seems like now you have two guys who are sitting up, and it's like the battle of the geeks or the revenge of the nerds. It just really kind of comes off kind of bland. So, Dave, I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. I would think that hopefully in the weeks to come, maybe they can add some type of new blood in there. And I'm not sure how a lot of you fans would feel about this, but I would love to see Mick Foley return to commentating, or JBL. Those were my two favorite guys commentating on SmackDown, and really I think they would just do a phenomenal job. I know Mick Foley, he didn't appreciate the fact that Vince McMahon was yelling in his ear and all that other crap the last time around. Maybe it could be a deal this time where Mick Foley could just be part of that three-man announcement booth, and he could just be the road guy. He could just say whatever, and you just have Cole and Josh Matthews continue to be fed words of whatever it is that they need to be saying through the microphone. Just let Mick Foley go rogue. You could do the same thing with JBL, you know, but I definitely see what you're talking about. I definitely feel that they're missing there at that announcement booth, but it needed to happen, you know. It's just unfortunate that they didn't knock out two birds with one stone, as they could have introduced a new commentator for the three-man panel at the same time of having Booker T be promoted. Tammy, I don't really know how you feel about that.
I actually agree with you and Dave that basically it is kind of bland since Booker T left, even though, you know, you have those same 5 words, you know, rehashed. But maybe it could be a situation where you have some of the talent, you know, come down, help out. And heck, maybe that could be next week's thing. Booker T's new, you know, thing for next week is to find somebody to replace him on his own position.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be interesting.
And folks, it's my favorite part of the show. It is the return of my favorite installment, Hidden Gems, long-awaited return. I know you guys have been eagerly awaiting this. For this week, I highly recommend that you go check out this really cool documentary TV series that originally aired on BET. You can catch these episodes on Netflix. It's called American Gangster, and it's narrated by actor Ving Rhames. Now, this series had originally premiered back in 2006, and this series covers all of the notorious gangsters that you could possibly think of. It dominantly showcases Black America's most infamous and powerful gangsters. This is some of the best television documentary series wise that I have ever come across, and you definitely will not be disappointed. Now, keep in mind what I just said. It had originally aired in 2006. As of 2009, the A&E network had purchased the rights to air seasons 1 through 3 on their networks. As of late, the show can primarily be seen on the Bio channel, and it can also be seen on the A&E channel here and there, as well as the Crime and Investigation Network. But you definitely want to check this out. It's really cool. One of the executive producers of the show is somebody who I have had a great admiration for, and that is Nelson George. That man just stays doing all types of different black documentaries. Some really great stuff. You definitely wouldn't be disappointed. Some of the gangsters that have been highlighted during this series has been Ricky Ross, Lorenzo, Fat Cat Nicholas, Leroy Nicky Barnes, Philly Black Mafia. Here's one that I thought was just really mind-boggling, as I didn't realize just how much dirty stuff he did while he was in office. J. Edgar Hoover, Guy Fisher. You're really going to love this series, so make sure that you check it out. And of course, we got to go into the comics for a little bit, as it's not really every day we get to talk about comic books on here. As I'm sure of you all know, The Dark Knight Rises is currently out in theaters right now, and it is the final installment of the Dark Knight series as envisioned by filmmaker Christopher Nolan. What better way to really grasp what all had inspired Christopher Nolan to write such a great bookmark to the end of the Dark Knight trilogy than to pick up the trade
paperbacks that had inspired him in the first place. And this week, I highly recommend that you check out the Nightfall trade paperback by DC Comics. Now, Nightfall chronicles the Batman storylines that took place back in 1993 to 94 that follows Bruce Wayne during a 6-month period where basically he is burnt out from being Batman, and all the criminals, they are kind of sensing that there is something happening with Batman, and they see it as an opportunity to just really let loose on the city of Gotham. Well, eventually we would see this super steroid enhanced super genius freak named Bane, who would eventually find out the identity of Batman as he would bring the battle to Bruce's home, and he would break Bruce Wayne's back. Who can forget that infamous front cover of Batman 497 of Bane just breaking Batman's back in half? This was their equivalent to the death of Superman, as Superman met his fate at the hands of the monster Doomsday. A guy by the name of Jean-Paul Valley would step in on behalf of Bruce Wayne while he was recuperating to take over the mantle of Batman. This, of course, had a very upset Dick Grayson, who had left Gotham to become his own man as he became Nightwing. It left him pretty pissed off, as he had always envisioned himself to be the true successor to the Cow. As Jean-Paul Valley, though he did a decent job as Batman, he went a little bit nutty in the end, as Batman would have no choice but to come back and eventually take over the mantle, as he felt Jean-Paul Valley was tarnishing the Batman's reputation. Nightfall, it is a really great series. I definitely can't stress it enough. You definitely want to pick this up. It has been republished as of this year. There's only certain portions of the story floating around right now, republished wise, but you can check it out on trade paperback, as there is a number of series of it. But if you're that true hardcore comic book fan and you're looking to check out a comic book that could be worth a lot of money, especially since we're coming fresh off of the heels of the Dark Knight Rises movie, then I highly recommend that you pick up Batman issue number 497, titled The Breaking of the Bat, artwork done by Kelly Jones. Probably going to be a hard issue to find now, as it's probably worth a lot of money, so make sure you make it your business to check that out, and the trade paperback.
I think that's going to do it. I think we had another pretty good fucking fantastic show tonight, folks. We got the RCWR show coming up Tuesday night. Be sure to check that out. Going to be covering the fallout from WWE Raw and get you guys caught up on the latest on wrestling entertainment news. So much more. Make sure you check that out. It's going to be happening this Tuesday night. Thank those of you for calling into the show. Those of you for checking it out in the chat room, live, on Blog Talk, and our sister website at InfinityOneProductions.com. That's going to do it. On behalf of the lovely co-producer Tammy, I am, as always, the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders. Thank you guys so much for checking out tonight's show. And mad shout out to those of you on Stitcher. Thank you all once again for making the month of July be our most downloaded episodes to date, as you made the month of July really be good for us. We appreciate that fan support. Do continue to spread that good word. Let your friends know. And if you don't know, now you know. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and get the heck up out of here. Everybody, y'all have a fantastic weekend. Hope everybody is okay and y'all are staying hydrated. It's going to be pretty hot for the remainder of the weekend going into next week. Till I hear from you guys next time, you all be safe and you all be kind to one another. Take care, folks. See you next time.